Tonight, a family is trying desperately to find Donna-Lee Donaldson.
Donna-Lee Donaldson.
Donna-Lee Donaldson.
Please help me find my daughter. Clifford, begging you, please. I can't go another day. I need to know where my daughter is.
Yeah. Mother's pain.
Hello, I'm Jovan Johnson. The police say they have not yet identified a person of interest in the case of Donna-Lee Donaldson, the 24-year-old social media influencer who has been reported missing since July 13. Her mother, Sophia Lugg, has questioned the police probing of the matter, noting that her daughter was involved with a policeman. Deputy Commissioner of Police Fitz Bailey says the force will be transparent about its investigations.
Thank you to everyone watching, and a special thank you to our subscribers. Your support means everything. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. Love is supposed to be safe. It's supposed to be the one thing that shields you from the cruelty of the world. The place you turn to when everything else feels uncertain. For Donna-Lee Donaldson, love was more than just a word. It was trust. It was comfort. It was the belief that the person she gave her heart to would never let harm come her way. But trust is a fragile thing, and sometimes the people we hold closest are the ones we should fear the most. On the night of July 11, 2022, Donna-Lee walked into her boyfriend's apartment, a place that should have been familiar, safe. She had done it before, countless times. But this time was different. Because this time, she would never walk out. Her phone would go silent. Her social media, once alive with energy, would go dark. The people who loved her, who laughed with her, who couldn't imagine a world without her, would be left in a nightmare that no mother, no father, no friend should ever have to live through. And the man who was supposed to love her, he would become the last person to ever see her alive. A man not just of power, but of authority. A man who had sworn to serve and protect, now accused of the unthinkable. But what happened inside that apartment? What secrets are buried beneath the silence? And why? Why, to this very day, has Donna-Lee's body never been found? This is not just a crime. This is not just another story. This is about a young woman who trusted the wrong person, a family torn apart by grief, a nation demanding answers, and the haunting question that refuses to fade. Where is Donna-Lee Donaldson? Donna-Lee Donaldson wasn't just a name trending on social media. She was a daughter, a sister, a young woman whose laughter filled rooms and whose presence was impossible to ignore. At just 24 years old, she had carved out a space for herself in the digital world. Her energy, her beauty, and her confidence drawing in thousands. She was bold, outspoken, and full of life. But away from the flashing cameras and perfectly curated posts, Donna-Lee was a woman in love, caught in a reality far more complex than the world ever knew. Born and raised in Jamaica, she carried the warmth of the island in her spirit. She had dreams, ambitions, and a future that stretched far beyond the screen of a phone. Her family adored her. Her friends cherished her. And yet, none of them could have imagined that the same young woman who seemed to have it all, who had the world at her feet, would vanish without a trace. Her relationship with Constable Noel Maitland was no secret. A police officer, a man in uniform, sworn to uphold the law. To the world, they were a couple. But behind closed doors, things were different. There were whispers, accusations, a tangled web of emotions, control and secrets that few truly understood. And when Donna-Lee stepped into his apartment that night, she had no idea she was stepping into the last moments of her life. She should have been safe. She should have come home. Instead, she disappeared, and the man who claimed to love her became the prime suspect in her murder. The night was like any other. The city of Kingston moved to its own rhythm. Cars rushing down the streets, music spilling from clubs, voices blending into the humid air. But for Donna-Lee Donaldson, this night would be different. This night would be the last time anyone would ever see her alive. It was July 11, 2022. Donna-Lee was heading to a familiar place, the Chelsea Manor Apartments, the residence of her boyfriend, Constable Noel Maitland. She had been there before, many times. It was a place where she had spent hours, where conversations had been whispered in the dark, where love had been shared, or at least what she believed was love. But love should never come with fear. Love should never feel like walking into the unknown. Yet, as she stepped inside, something was different. Something felt off. Her phone, once a constant flurry of messages, calls, and social media updates, suddenly went silent. Her mother, Sophia Lugg, had no idea that the last goodbye she shared with her daughter would be the final one. Inside those walls, time moved forward. But for Donna-Lee, it stopped. No one saw her leave. No security footage captured her stepping out of the building. She had entered, there was no doubt about that. But hours passed, then a full day, and still there was no sign of her. And the man who was with her, the one person who should have had answers, he said nothing. At first there was no urgency in his voice, no panic in his words, just silence. But the truth has a way of leaving traces, even in the absence of a body. Phone records would later reveal that something happened July 12, a window of time unaccounted for, a period in which whatever fate befell Donna-Lee had already taken place. And whatever it was, she never made it out alive. The question that haunts her family, her friends, and an entire nation still lingers in the air, like a shadow that refuses to disappear. What happened inside that apartment? What really happened in those final moments? And why? Why has Donna-Lee Donaldson never been found? Morning came, but Donna-Lee didn't. No calls, no messages, no sign of life from the young woman who was never far from her phone. It wasn't just unusual. It was terrifying. Her mother, Sophia Lugg, tried to silence the gnawing feeling of dread, creeping into her chest. Maybe Donna-Lee was just busy. Maybe her phone had died. Maybe she had stayed out longer than expected. But deep down, a mother knows. A mother always knows when something is wrong. By the morning of July 13, the silence was deafening. Hours had passed. Then an entire day. Donna-Lee's family had gone from worried to frantic. Calls went unanswered. Messages sat unread. Every second, without a response, felt like another inch closer to a reality they weren't ready to face. And then came the question no family ever wants to ask. Should we go to the police? The report was filed. Donna-Lee Donaldson was officially missing. But if her family expected urgency, if they thought the weight of their fear would be met with immediate action, they were mistaken. The response was slow. Too slow. Questions were asked, but answers were vague. There was no immediate search, no press conference, no sweeping investigation. It was as if Donna-Lee had simply vanished into thin air. But she hadn't. Something had happened to her, and the people who loved her the most refused to accept silence as an answer. As the hours stretched into days, the worry turned into action. Social media lit up with her name. Hashtags flooded timelines. Is justice for Donna-Lee, who swear as Donna-Lee. Her face was everywhere. Influencers, activists, everyday citizens, people who had never even met her, demanded answers. And yet, from the one person who should have had them, there was nothing. Noel Maitland, the man she trusted, the man who had seen her last, hadn't sounded the alarm. Hadn't called her mother. Hadn't shown the panic one would expect from a boyfriend whose partner was missing. Instead, there was a cold, unsettling quiet. And in the background, the whispers grew louder. People were starting to question everything. If Donna-Lee was last seen with him, why wasn't he leading the search? If he had nothing to hide, why did it feel like he was hiding everything? And as pressure mounted, as the demand for answers became impossible to ignore, one thing became clear. Donna-Lee Donaldson wasn't coming home. And the truth was trapped in the silence of the man who refused to speak. As the days passed and Donna-Lee's absence stretched into something more than just a missing persons case, a single name kept rising to the surface. Noel Maitland. He wasn't just her boyfriend. He wasn't just the last person to see her alive. He was a police officer, someone who had sworn to serve and protect. But as questions swirled and details of the investigation trickled out, it became clear. He wasn't acting like a man desperate to find the woman he loved. He wasn't leading the search, he wasn't pleading for her safe return, and most of all, he wasn't telling the full truth. From the very beginning, his story was riddled with holes. What time did Donna-Lee leave his apartment? He couldn't say. Why hadn't he called her family when she never responded to his messages? He had no answer. His demeanor, his words, his silence, it all pointed to a truth that people were beginning to suspect but were too afraid to say out loud. Something had happened to Donna-Lee in that apartment, and Noel Maitland knew exactly what it was. Public pressure mounted, and when authorities finally started looking at him as a suspect, they found more than just a missing persons case. They found inconsistencies. They found discrepancies. They found a timeline that didn't make sense. Phone records painted a different picture than the one he had given. Forensic evidence, though limited, suggested that whatever took place inside his apartment on July 12, it wasn't just an argument. It wasn't just a misunderstanding. It was something far worse. Between 4:00 p.m. and 8:00 p.m., something happened to Donna-Lee Donaldson. Investigators believe that in those crucial 4 hours, her fate was sealed. But without a body, proving it would be nearly impossible. There was no crime scene in the traditional sense, no bullet casings, no obvious signs of struggle. But evidence has a way of leaving a mark, even when someone tries to erase it. And as investigators continued to dig, a chilling discovery would take this case in a horrifying direction. The whispers in the community turned into shouts. Protests erupted in the streets. Crowds gathered, holding signs with Donna-Lee's face, demanding justice. Her mother, Sophia Lugg, stood at the forefront, refusing to let her daughter's name be lost in bureaucracy and silence. People cried out for action. But as they did, the man at the center of it all remained silent. Noel Maitland, a police officer trained to handle crisis, seemed unshaken, unmoved by the tidal wave of grief and rage swelling around him. And that, perhaps, was the most chilling part of all. Because if he truly loved Donna-Lee, if he had nothing to hide, why wasn't he looking for her? For weeks, the case remained clouded in uncertainty, with no body, no clear crime scene, and no confession. But then, investigators uncovered something they couldn't ignore, a trail of evidence that led right back to Noel Maitland's doorstep. Phone records placed Donna-Lee at Chelsea Manor on the night of July 11. But what was even more damning, her phone never left. Every outgoing signal, every last digital footprint indicated that she never stepped outside those apartment doors again. Yet, according to Maitland, she simply left. But if she had walked out on her own, why was her phone never traced beyond that point? Why did all activity suddenly stop? And why couldn't he provide a single piece of proof that she had actually left? As police dug deeper, the inconsistencies in his story began to crumble under the weight of forensic data. His calls, his messages, his very movements in those critical hours after her disappearance painted a different picture. One of a man not searching for his missing girlfriend, but one trying to erase any trace of her presence. Then came the most chilling revelation yet. Witnesses came forward, speaking in hushed tones, terrified but compelled by their conscience. They described something disturbing. A blood-stained couch being removed from Maitland's apartment, taken away under the cover of darkness. a piece of furniture, disposed of. But why? Authorities moved quickly to track down this piece of potential evidence, but by the time they learned of its existence, it was already gone. Destroyed, discarded. Whatever happened to it? One thing was certain. That couch held answers. Answers that someone desperately wanted to disappear. But the attempt to cover up the truth only raised more questions, because now investigators weren't just looking at a missing persons case. They were looking at the possibility of a premeditated crime, a calculated effort to remove not just evidence, but a life. And as the details came into focus, the weight of suspicion on Noel Maitland became undeniable. But still, without a body, could they prove what everyone feared had happened behind those apartment walls? For weeks, Donna-Lee's family clung to hope. Hope that she was out there somewhere, that maybe, just maybe, she would walk through the door. But as the investigation pressed on, hope gave way to heartbreak. The evidence was clear. Donna-Lee wasn't missing. She was gone, and the man who was supposed to love her was now the prime suspect in her murder. The public had already made up its mind. The protests outside the police station grew louder. The streets of Kingston were filled with voices demanding justice. Where is Donna-Lee? The posters read, held high by grieving family members and outraged citizens. Tell us the truth. Crowds gathered outside Chelsea Manor, the apartment where she was last seen. They stood outside law enforcement offices, pressuring authorities to act. They weren't going to let this case be forgotten. Not this time. Then, on August 2, 2022, the news broke. Noel Maitland, police officer, boyfriend, and now accused murderer, was arrested, charged with the murder of Donna-Lee Donaldson. But as he was led away in handcuffs, his face blank, his expression unreadable, one question still loomed over everything. Where was Donna-Lee? Maitland's arrest marked a turning point, but it was far from the end. In fact, it was just the beginning of what would become one of Jamaica's most complex and emotionally charged trials. Because without a body, prosecutors faced an uphill battle. They had forensic evidence, phone records, witness testimonies, but no physical remains, no crime scene, no definitive proof of what had happened behind those apartment doors. And in cases like these, reasonable doubt was the defense's strongest weapon. But there was something else, another charge that sent shockwaves through the public. Maitland wasn't just accused of murder, he was also charged with preventing the burial of a corpse, a chilling accusation, one that suggested he not only took Donna-Lee's life, but ensured that her body would never be found. For Donna-Lee's family, that charge was like a dagger to the heart. It confirmed what they had feared the most, that Maitland knew exactly where she was, that somewhere hidden from the eyes of those who loved her lay the remains of a daughter, a sister, a friend. And yet, he refused to speak, refused to offer even a sliver of closure. The legal system would now take its course. But the fight for justice was far from over. With no body, no confession, and a suspect who maintained his innocence, the prosecution had a difficult road ahead. Would they be able to convict a man for murder without a body? Or would Donna-Lee Donaldson become yet another woman whose story ended with more questions than answers? For a mother, there is no greater agony than not knowing where her child is. Not knowing if she is cold, not knowing if she is alone, not knowing if she is suffering. For Sophia Lugg, the waiting was unbearable. Every day that passed without an answer was another day of torment. She pleaded, publicly and privately, for the truth. She begged Noel Maitland, if he had ever loved Donna-Lee, even for a second, to do the right thing, to give her back, to let her lay her daughter to rest. But from Maitland there was nothing, no remorse, no confession, just silence. And that silence spoke louder than words. Donna-Lee wasn't just another missing person. She was a daughter, a friend, a voice that had once been full of life, now silenced by violence. And the people of Jamaica were not going to let her name be forgotten. What began as whispers of outrage quickly grew into something impossible to ignore. On the streets of Kingston, they gathered hundreds, then thousands. People who had never met Donna-Lee but felt her absence like a wound. Protesters held up signs with her face, her name. Their voices rose in unison, demanding justice. "Where is Donna-Lee?" they chanted. "We need answers!" They stood outside police stations. They marched to government buildings. They refused to let this case fade into obscurity, like so many others before it. Because Donna-Lee wasn't just one woman. Because Donna-Lee wasn't just one woman. A representation of something far larger. A reminder that in Jamaica, too many women had vanished, too many lives had been stolen, and too few had received justice. Femicide was not a new story in Jamaica. It was an epidemic. And Donna-Lee's case, tragic as it was, had ignited a firestorm of outrage against a system that had failed too many times before. The people wanted justice, not just for Donna-Lee, but for all the women whose names had been reduced to headlines. And this time, they would not be ignored. But as the protests grew, so did the resistance. Accusations of police corruption began to swirl, whispers of a cover-up, claims that some within the force were protecting Maitland, that justice was being delayed on purpose. The Jamaica Constabulary Force found itself under scrutiny, forced to answer difficult questions. Had they done everything in their power to find Donna-Lee? Had they moved quickly enough? Or had the case been handled differently because the suspect was one of their own? As Sophia Lugg stood before cameras, her voice breaking under the weight of grief, she didn't speak only for herself. She spoke for every mother who had lost a daughter to violence. For every family still waiting for answers, for every woman who had ever felt unsafe in the presence of someone she trusted. And she had one message, clear and unwavering. "Give me my child. Tell me where she is. Let me bring her home." But would anyone listen? The wheels of justice turned slowly. But for Donna-Lee Donaldson's family, every passing day is another reminder of what they have lost, and what they may never get back. Noel Maitland, once a trusted officer of the law, now sits behind bars, awaiting trial. The evidence against him is damning. But there is one thing prosecutors do not have: Donna-Lee's body. And that single missing piece could mean the difference between conviction and doubt, between justice and another case left unresolved. A murder trial without a body is not unheard of, but it is rare. Prosecutors must build their case entirely on circumstantial evidence, witness testimony, and forensic traces. The missing couch, the one allegedly stained with blood, may be the strongest clue, but without direct forensic proof, will it be enough? Will a jury see past the unanswered questions, past the uncertainty, and declare what so many believe to be true? And if they don't, what then? The trial is set for April 2025, and the stakes couldn't be higher. For Sophia Lugg, for Donna-Lee's family, for the thousands of people who took to the streets demanding justice, this isn't just about one man standing trial. This is about sending a message that power and influence will not protect those who harm the innocent, that the lives of women cannot be erased without consequence. But even if Maitland is convicted, even if the evidence holds, one question will remain. Where is Donna-Lee? Her family does not just want a guilty verdict. They want to bring her home. They want to lay her to rest, to give her the dignity in death that she was denied in life. They want to stand at her grave and know, at last, where she is. But will they ever get that chance? Some believe that Maitland knows exactly where Donna-Lee's body is, that he has hidden the truth in a place he is certain will never be found. Others fear that after so much time, even if she is discovered, there may be little left to recover. It is an unbearable thought for those who loved her, a thought no mother should ever have to consider. But one thing is certain: until the truth is uncovered, until justice is served, until Donna Lee is found. Her story is not over. It will not be forgotten. And the people who stood for her, who marched for her, who spoke her name in protest and grief will not be silenced. April 2025 will be a reckoning. But will it be the answer? Or just another painful chapter in a case that refuses to let go? Only time will tell. Grief is not just an emotion. It's a weight, an unshakable burden carried by those left behind. For Donna-Lee Donaldson's family, every morning begins with the same unbearable reality. She is gone, and worse, she has not been found. Her mother wakes up each day with the same unanswered questions. Where is her daughter? What were her last moments like? Did she suffer? Did she suffer? Did she cry out for help? Did she fight? Did she know that the man she trusted would become the man she feared? The thought is unbearable, and yet it is the only thing she has left of Donna-Lee. Memories and questions that may never be answered. Outside the walls of their home, Jamaica has not forgotten. The protests may have quieted, but the pain remains. People still whisper her name. They still hold their breath every time a new piece of information surfaces. And when they see Noel Maitland's face in court, when they watch him sit there, emotionless, as if this is just another day in his life, the anger reignites. Because this isn't just about Donna-Lee. This is about trust. This is about women who go missing and are never found. This is about the power that some people wield over others, the belief that they can erase a life and walk away untouched. But Donna-Lee will not be erased. Her face is etched into the memory of an entire nation. Her laughter still echoes through the videos she once posted, the life she shared online. And the people who loved her will not stop until justice is served. But will justice be enough? Even if Noel Maitland is convicted, even if the courts hand down a guilty verdict, will it bring peace? Will it bring peace? Will it bring closure? Can a mother ever find peace when she does not know where her child rests? This is not just a story. This is a plea for justice, a plea for answers, a plea for accountability. And so we ask you, what do you think? Will justice be served? Will Donna-Lee's family ever find the answers they deserve? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want more in-depth true crime stories, don't forget to like and subscribe to Unmasked True Crime Stories. Because every story deserves to be told, and every victim deserves to be remembered.